Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media. I am Ross Bolen, and I'm starting to feel like I'm living in the twilight zone. Usually, in sports, by the time enough people notice and point out a nonsensical trend for a team, the trend ceases to exist because the laws of mathematics come into play. Not so for the Houston Astros over the last few years. Everyone, and I mean everyone who pays attention to this team, is aware that if we put up double-digit runs in a game, we will undoubtedly have zero offense for at least the next game, maybe two. It is a trend that was extremely well established during the 2022 regular season, and now in 2023, it remains as true as ever, even after becoming so absurdly predictable that it became a running joke amongst hardcore Astros fans. What the fuck? Right now, we're in the midst of a 4-game series with the Toronto Blue Jays, with the final game being tonight, Thursday, June 8th. We won the first game 11-4 with everyone on the team raking. Corey Julks absolutely smoked his first career grand slam. Jordan went yak. Tucker hit a bomb. Jake Myers took one deep. It was glorious. Everyone who watched that was an Astros fan was having a jolly good time. We put up a fucking 6 spot in the first inning. With our pitching, that was pretty much game over. Game over, man. But even as it was happening, those of us who have paid close enough attention to the Astros over the last few seasons started getting a little worried after we tacked on 2 more runs in the 5th inning. Like, all right, that's enough. Pump the fucking brakes. We've got 8 runs already. Save some for next game. But no, we scored 3 more, and instead of feeling jubilant when victory was secured, I was already dreading the next game. I was already thinking about how I wanted to bet the under in the next game. And guess what? Shocker. We lost the next game 5-1. And the next game 3-2. And god damn it, I am so sick of this shit. We've got to learn to spread it out. I don't know, that's not really a thing, but like, spread it out. For the love of God, someone teach them to spread it out like jelly on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's a wildly annoying trend now, to the point that I think we should start point shaving. Like, when we're nearing double-digit runs, if the game is well in hand, we got to start shaving points. And I'm only partially kidding. It's fucking outrageous. It's costing us games that we should win. Ugh. The game yesterday was 2 hours and 3 minutes, by the way. 2 hours and 3 minutes. I sneezed and I missed the second inning. I took a shit and I missed 3 innings. I walked to the mailbox and I missed a half inning. It is truly wild how much faster these games are going with all the new rule changes. And frankly, I think through over 50 games now, all of those changes have been overwhelmingly positive for the game of baseball and for spectators back home and in the stadium, where you don't have to worry that the game's going to take up 4 hours, which is like, for those of you who are golfers, which we'll get to later in this podcast, by the way, you know how time-consuming a 4-hour sporting event can be. Like, if you're going to play golf, that's a day. And I know there are freaks out there who are like getting in 18 after work. Y'all are psychos. The rest of us who are casual golfers can't live like that. Like, going to play golf is a fucking day. You have to plan for that shit. If you have a job that is extremely demanding during the work week at 9 to 5, it has to be a Saturday, and it's your whole fucking Saturday, because the 4 hours that you're out there on the course cause the rest of the day to be recovery from those 4 hours. Whether or not you're drinking, but especially if you're drinking. Same thing applied for baseball games. You used to have to plan an entire day around going to an Astros game, because for all you know, shit might go 4 hours. And by the time it's over, you're 6 beers deep. And then the rest of that day is fucking shot. And if you took kids to the game, you just had to cross your fingers that you could make it past like 5 innings, because you'd feel like a jackass if you missed the entire end because you're in traffic on the way home listening on the radio because your kids are tired and want to go to bed. That's not really the way this shit works anymore. It's just 2 hours. It's not that big of a time commitment. It fucking flies by. I mean, for those of you who've been watching a lot of games, you know, certain innings will take like 10 minutes. I mean, there'll be like a minute and a half inning, like 6-pitch inning. It happens fairly regularly. Every couple of games, there's a stretch where I'm like, I don't understand how I looked down at my Instagram for 5 minutes and I missed the middle of the game. Like the whole middle of the game is gone. It's bonkers. But I think for the most part, seeing how the players have adjusted, seeing how the pitchers have adjusted, seeing how all of our hitters except for Jose Abreu have adjusted. I only say that because I watched him get a third strike applied to his count as a result of failing to get ready in the box in time after calling time yesterday, which was just mind-boggling. The game is better off for this. I really think it is. It keeps things moving. It keeps things focused. It keeps the action rolling. And I think that's good for the fans, too, where, being honest, you know, stereotypically, baseball is looked at, similarly to golf, as a fairly boring sport by casuals, right? This eliminates a lot of that. It gives the game a chance to grow and to do so without billions of dollars of Saudi Arabian blood money, which is huge for the game of baseball. So I think altogether it's been a win, but I'm curious what all of you think about the rule changes. So holler at me on social media at Banging the Can on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Banging the Can. Jose Altuve finally returned to the lineup last night after a weird few days off with some kind of a strange oblique situation. None of us actually know. You know how the Astros are. They don't tell us anything about what's happening with the players or when they're expected to return or what their specific injuries even are a lot of the time, which can be frustrating. I've chosen to just accept that that's the way the team operates. It's very much like a New England Patriots back in Bill Belichick's heyday kind of situation where, like, they play it like the USSR, man. Like, if you're not at the top of that organization, you're not getting any fucking information about what's happening. That's just the way they roll, in secrecy. And it seems to have worked, obviously, over the last several years, as we have built a dynasty that cannot be argued with. I have accepted it. If somebody's out of the lineup, you're not going to know why. Maybe they have a tummy ache. Maybe their fucking leg is broken. You don't know. It could be anything. And Altuve was out for a few days there. Apparently, he tweaked something during an AB, and they were like, we want to play it safe. We keep getting a lot of that. It was discomfort, general discomfort. Everybody knows that. But he came back yesterday against the Blue Jays, and you would have expected that, you know, Dusty Baker would put him back in his traditional leadoff spot. Not so. Instead, Mauricio Dubon led off and played shortstop, giving Jeremy Pena a rest day. And Altuve hit second, which was just kind of a bizarre thing to see. And Dubon went 3 for 4. Had a great day at the plate. Altuve went 0 for 4, but he reached on a fielder's choice at one point before being driven in by a Yordan Alvarez bomb. It was just interesting tinkering from Dusty Baker. And an overall bizarre season health-wise for Jose Altuve so far. So here's to hoping the squad can close out the series against Toronto with a win tonight, because the Arlington Rangers keep winning with their joke of an easy schedule, and I am sick of looking at us on second place in the division rankings. If you're a sports bettor looking for a place to get action during the rest of the NBA Finals, Major League Baseball's regular season, the Stanley Cup Finals in hockey, UFC fights, boxing matches, all of the sports, and you want to make your picks at a place that supports our show, today's sponsor, MyBookie, is the way to go. Just use code ROSS upon sign up at mybookie.ag to unlock a deposit bonus. Stipulations apply, and you will get even more dough to throw at your favorite sporting event. Today's episode is obviously brought to you by MyBookie, who has all the prop bets, live lines, alternate lines, and futures that you could possibly need for all the sports all year long. Great online casino as well, with live dealers and live blackjack and live roulette, all that good stuff. And right now, if you join the MyBookie family using the code ROSS at checkout, ROSS, support the show and you'll instantly receive a deposit bonus, giving you even more dough to throw. So what are you waiting for? If you're a sports bettor looking for a great platform that also supports your favorite Houston sports podcast, code ROSS at mybookie.ag. is the way to do it, folks. Just use code Ross to unlock that deposit bonus. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. The NBA Finals have been wildly entertaining so far as the Denver Nuggets went into Miami and won the first game on the road, reclaiming home court advantage and securing a 2-1 lead. I think a lot of people, especially casuals, looked at this matchup in the NBA Finals between the Denver Nuggets and Miami Heat and just said, I might watch some of it. I might tune in. Maybe when it gets deep, when it's about to end. We'll see how it goes, that kind of thing. And they've been missing out. This has been very, very good basketball with arguably the best player on the planet being Nikola Jokic leading the Denver Nuggets so far. Jokic has, to me, very clearly secured his spot as the all-around best basketball player in the world right now. Like, he probably should have gotten that third MVP in a row, even though that is a ridiculous, like, even as I say it out loud, I'm just like, nobody should get 3 in a row, but he probably should have gotten 3 in a row. He's definitely better than Joel Embiid right now. He was definitely better than him all season long. He's definitely a better leader on the floor. He has a bigger impact than anyone in the game right now on his team, which is in the NBA Finals, and I think that tells you everything you need to know about where this guy is and where he's going to go. So he's just a freak show. Jokic and Jamal Murray became the first teammates ever with 30-point triple-doubles in the same game in their Game 3 win against the Miami Heat. And Jokic became the first player ever to have a 30-point, 20-rebound, and 10-assist game ever in the history of the NBA Finals. Ever. It's never been done. Wilt Chamberlain never did it. Kareem never did it. Hakeem never did it. Not Bill Russell, not LeBron James, not Michael Jordan. Nobody has ever done that in an NBA Finals game in the history of the league. 30 points, 20 boards, 10 assists, never been accomplished in the finals. And he's done it. I think next season will be the first one where Nikola Jokic gets his due and proper respect from NBA fans on the whole, but especially from the NBA casuals that don't watch too much. His greatness has simply become completely undeniable at this point. I fucking love watching this guy. I mean, it's true what people say. It really is like watching some like giant Serbian ogre that just wandered into a pickup game, completely dominate, because his style is so nonchalant looking from a physical angle. Like, he doesn't look like he's trying all that hard. And he has the court vision of fucking Magic Johnson. Like, it's crazy to see some of the shots he puts up, his moves in the post. He is excellent. And he's a guy that if you saw him on the street, you would never think like dominant NBA center. I mean, maybe from the height, you would think he played a little bit of ball, but like in terms of his general physique, he doesn't look like he'd be the dude putting every single member of the opposing team in the spin cycle, but that's exactly what he does every single night. He is unreal. It's so much fun to watch, and just as all of the greatest players in history have done, he makes everyone around him infinitely better. He's just so good. His presence on the court is the biggest positive that I think that anyone in the league brings to their team. This dude is that dude. Jamal Murray obviously been balling himself, and now Game 4 becomes a must-win for the Heat. Like they can't go back to Denver down 3-1. I think that combo of Jokic and Murray is too good. They're not going to let you claw back the way that Miami has been able to do in some of these other series so far this postseason. They got to win now. If I'm them, this is a must-win. It kind of becomes a must-win for both teams. You don't want Miami to hang in it. You don't want to go 2-2 if you're Denver and go back home tied up with the opportunity for them to take a 3-2 lead. Like it's going to be intense. I'm excited about it. Very, very excited about it. Game 4 is Friday night at 7:30, and I know exactly what I'm doing with my Friday evening now. Stoked. The NBA Finals have been great so far. In other sports news, PGA Commissioner Jay Monahan shocked the golf world and every single PGA player by announcing a merger with the organization that owns the LIV Golf League. And I discussed the finer points that are known so far on my comedy show, the Ross Bolen podcast, earlier this week, because frankly, the hypocrisy is at a point of comedy. Jay Monahan should probably lose his job for this when it's all said and done, because guys like Rory McIlroy, who stood to make at least $100 million in signing bonus alone if he accepted an offer from LIV Golf, got absolutely railroaded by the PGA here. One thing has become clear over the last couple of days, though, since this story broke, and that is that nobody seems to actually know what is going to happen with LIV Golf as an entity. Like, LIV representatives say the league will continue to exist, and I think it's pretty clear that at some point, Rory McIlroy, at the very least, was somehow assured that LIV would cease to exist as a result of this deal. So not only did Jay Monahan boggle this entire thing by leaving PGA players in the dark entirely, where they did not know this was happening and found out on Twitter and Instagram just like the rest of us, not only did he boggle it by less than a year ago, essentially suggesting that anyone who joined LIV Golf was letting down the families of 9/11 victims by joining a league backed by the same people who funded Al-Qaeda, he also made this announcement about the merger seemingly before all of the details have been fleshed out. Like, we don't, it's like people keep saying on Twitter, like, oh, it's the early days of this deal. We don't know what's going to happen. Like, well, then why the fuck didn't they wait? Was it just like they didn't want it to leak? They wanted to go ahead and get the word out there just in case? It's an extremely sketchy situation in several different ways. Just absolutely ridiculous decision-making, though, from Jay Monahan. The way that he handled this, it's a sad state of affairs. And while the state of golf has been in a frankly sad flux since the inception of LIV Golf just a couple of years ago, this has to be the low point in the history of professional golf right now. The low point, and yet perhaps the most interesting point for onlookers who can't wait to see how this shakes out. What a mess. But that is basically how I feel. Like, it's disgusting. It's kind of terrifying, because if you love sports like I do, I think it's scary for what's to come. Like, why, if you're the Saudi Arabia People's Investment Fund that is controlled by their crown prince, why would you not just replicate what you just did with golf with all of the other major sports? Why would they not spin up a baseball league and pay Shohei Ohtani $2 billion to come play ball in Saudi Arabia? Seriously, why would they not do that? If they just proved the formula that all they have to do to force their way into an ownership position of an American professional sports league is to spin up this bullshit fucking joke of a team league that nobody was watching, like LIV Golf, pay exorbitant amounts of money that, frankly, we can't really afford to compete with in the United States, to some of the biggest names in the game, get them over there, wait it out, and then eventually the league will cave and bring you into the fold? That's all they have to, they can do that all day long. They print fucking money over there. They like, nobody is messing with the wealth that they have, that People's Investment Fund has. It's like $692 billion or something crazy like that. And it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds, because for that reason, I'm extremely plugged into this story. And I'm a very casual golf fan. I've been making fun of casuals this entire episode. That's what I am with golf. Like, if I watch, it's because the leaderboard is stacked or it's one of the four majors. Like, I'm not watching every single tournament. I've been even less invested since LIV Golf spun up and they took away a bunch of the big names that I did know, right? Even guys like, Phil Mickelson on the back end of his career, obviously. But look what he just did in the Masters. Still incredibly competitive when it matters most. Brooks Koepka is obviously one of the other big names, but it's been a weird few years for golf. And I was already kind of a casual guy, so I slipped even further in that direction when LIV spun up. And now, just having to watch this shitstorm has become, I can't look away. It's like a train wreck. But I'm also scared of what this will mean for all of these other, like, you see, if you're a big European soccer guy, that they've been doing some shit like this with soccer, where they're pulling big names. They tried to get Messi, and he ended up coming to Miami, as got announced yesterday. Pretty sure they got Cristiano Ronaldo, and those are old guys, right? That are phasing out and trying to get one last bag or whatever. But that's all you have to do. You secure enough legends, and eventually some of the younger cats are also going to accept the bag to come over there, play with those legends, live like a king, and have infinite generational wealth. Like, that's the inevitable, like, that's the slide that you can kind of predict. And if they can do that with golf, which I think was probably the most susceptible, then I don't know why they wouldn't take a shot and try to do that with baseball, or try to do that with football, or try to do that with basketball, or try to do that with fucking hockey, for all I know. I don't even know how much hockey exists over there. But it's a slippery slope, and it's a strange game that we are seeing be played right now in terms of Saudi Arabia buying influence in the United States and with some of our most prestigious institutions in sports. I mean, if you didn't know this, like the PIF, that People's Investment Fund in Saudi Arabia, controlled by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, they own like a pretty major stake in like Starbucks. They've just like they're buying Western influence, if you will, and they have enough money to do this sort of indefinitely. So it just becomes this really weird situation as a sports fan, where we are now kind of watching the forefront of them purchasing cultural influence, and it's fucking crazy. It's just not something I ever expected to see, and certainly did not expect the PGA to handle the entire situation the way that they have. I think for a lot of us who were watching casually, you thought like, oh, fuck it, LIV Golf will just kind of become this like retirement league, right? Maybe some guys that are younger and in their prime and still competing will go over there or whatever, but like for the most part, the PGA is going to remain the only golf league that matters, and the only one that anybody that's a casual fan is going to watch. And now somehow it still worked. Like, they still forced their way in and are going to have, it sounds like, a pretty big say in what happens moving forward, or at least big ownership and big money, as the PGA will be backed by the billions of dollars that guys like Rory, who decided against going over there for moral or loyalty reasons, they're now going to be accepting that same money that guys like Brooks Koepka went over there and took. Guys like Phil went over there and took. So it's, like I said, a mess. It is a mess, and we'll have to continue to watch and see how that story unfolds as the details get released and become a little bit more clear in terms of what exactly is happening. Sports, that will do it for today's show. But remember, every episode of Banging the Can is available to watch in full on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. For those of you who would rather watch instead of just listen, youtube.com/@bangingthecan. I appreciate all of you who have subscribed and who tune into our show on YouTube already. Frankly, even if you're just an audio person, if you just want to listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, I would appreciate it if you'd take the time, go to youtube.com/@bangingthecan, subscribe so we can continue to grow the show. It helps us. Thank you. On that note, please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family, and support our sponsors as well. This week's sponsor is MyBookie. If you are a sports bettor looking for a great platform that also supports your favorite Houston sports podcast, code Ross at mybookie.ag is the way to do it. Just use code Ross, unlock a deposit bonus, stipulations apply. Check out my media startup, Bolen Media, at bolenmedia.com. My comedy show, The Ross Bolen Podcast, wherever you consume Banging the Can. And follow us on social media on TikTok at Banging the Can, as well as Instagram and Twitter at Banging the Can. I am Ross Bolen. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WRBOLEN. WR Bolen. I will be back soon. Until next time, H-Town, stay down.